He's back. After all these years, he's finally back. For a long time, I thought he was just a nightmare. An imaginary friend we all had as a child turned deadly. Mom, Dad, I know you've never really cared about me, but if I die and you have the common decency to wonder where I am, these recordings are for you. It started coming back to me when I got a call in the middle of the night. Still half asleep, I groped around on the shelf until I found my phone. I bitterly asked myself who was texting me at 3 in the morning. The person himself turned out to be Dan. He said that he messed up and he's so sorry. I hadn't talked to Dan since I was a kid, so if he's calling me in the middle of the night, it had to be something important. I asked him if he was okay and what happened. Dan said that he went back into the woods, that he had to be sure. He had to prove to himself that it was all in his head, but it wasn't. It's all real. He's real. I probably should have figured out what, or who, he was talking about right then. But my sleep-ridden brain kept me from realizing the obvious, so I asked Dan if he was drunk or something. Dan said that he heard him whispering, just like when we were kids. As soon as I heard that, I realized who he was talking about. I told Dan to stop it. No, he made all that stuff up. That Mr. Red was just a dumb kid's game that got out of control. That he doesn't exist. He never did. Dan insisted that Mr. Red does, and he's here with him right now. I asked Dan where he was. Dan just said that he can hear Mr. Red in the trees, hear him whispering. A harsh tap, tap, tap from the window made me jump, dropping my phone and causing me to scream. A dark shape loomed outside the window. Heart hammering in my chest, I fumbled for the light switch. Lights flooded my bedroom, streaming out the window to reveal Dan. I demanded to know what he was doing here. Dan asked me if he could come in. I said that I guess so and told him to hold on. I moved to the window and slid it open enough for Dan to climb inside. Then I told him that he's got some explaining to do and asked him what the hell he was doing here. I said that we've barely spoken in years, and suddenly he decided to pay me a visit at 3 in the morning? Dan said that he was sorry. I told him not to apologize and to just tell me what's going on. That he sounded really freaked out in his text. Dan insisted that's nothing. He's fine. Then he told me to come on and we needed to get the others. I asked Dan what others. He said it's our friends. Stacy, Lily, Noah, Lucas, Ava, and Andy. That he's got something to show me, but we need to bring everyone. I told Dan that I've barely spoken to any of the group since we were little kids. After what happened to Jane, Dan insisted that they have to come back. Everyone has to be there. That's the rule. My phone buzzed again, rattling against the floorboards. Sighing, I picked it up. I told Dan that I want to help him, but he's freaking me out right now. I reminded him that we've got our first day of school in like 6 hours and we can talk then. My phone buzzed again, another notification popping up on the screen. I looked down to see that it was Dan. He asked me if I was still there and told me that he thinks he's lost. I completely froze, only moving to look between Dan and the text. If that's Dan texting me, then who's standing right in front of me? The Dan on my phone told me that his battery's almost dead and begged me to help. Which I'd love to do, but first I gotta get this stranger out of my house. I told him to wait, but Dan, or whoever he is, insisted that we have to go back to the woods. The lights in my bedroom flickered as a chill wind swept through my open window. Hands trembling, I slowly looked up from my phone screen. I called out Dan's name, not knowing what else to do. A smile spread across his shadowed face, stretching wider than it should as he said my name. I started to back away, but Dan's hands clamped around my wrist. I tried to pull free, but he clinged to me with inhuman strength. Out of desperation, I snatched up a heavy ceramic mug, smashing it against Dan's head with all my might, but he barely flinched. Dan threw me to the floor, pinning my back against the rough boards. He said that we all have to go back and asked if I remember. I told Dan to get off me. Then I clawed at him and his flesh crumbled beneath my fingernails. Dan leaned in, his cold breath stinking of moldy dirt and blood. He said that everyone plays together as the flesh on his skin melted off. The creature's hands tightened around my throat. My vision began to blur, shadows seeming to writhe and bleed in the dark room as I tried to fight it. Whatever it was. I had no breath left to scream. I simply sank, paralyzed by the terror, into a cold, black nothingness. Then I woke up screaming, suddenly finding my voice as I jerked myself awake, adrenaline burning in my veins as I thrashed against my attacker. Until I realized that I was alone in my room. Just like I was alone in this house. God, that was such a messed up dream. Reaching up to feel my neck, I flinched as my fingers brushed the fresh bruises there. I found myself hoping this wasn't one of those if you die in your sleep, you die in real life deals. What am I saying? Stuff like that only happens in movies. At least, that's what I thought at the time. I just didn't believe this was happening. Maybe because the whole thing was too screwed up, or maybe because I didn't want to believe it. I grabbed my phone to look at the text from last night, only to discover that the battery's dead. Considering that I needed this thing for school, a dead battery was the last thing I wanted. I still tossed it into my school bag and turned to my closet. I got dressed in my goth look and grabbed my school bag, hurrying down the stairs. Outside, I casted a nervous glance towards the woods that bordered the edge of my yard. All I could think about was Dan's words about the monster he became in my dream. The monster we called Mr. Red. Could Dan have really seen him? No, it couldn't have been. It's like I said in my dream. Mr. Red was just a dumb kid's game. Nothing more. At least, that's what I told myself when I walked down the steps. A friendly voice called out from the yard next door. It was my neighbor, Sid, greeting me in the morning. You know, the same Sid who used to babysit me when you guys ran off and did whatever. I asked him what was up. Sid said that he was just coming back from walking his dog, Hilda. A blur of black and white fur crashed out of the bushes, looking around excitedly. That ball of fur being Hilda, who greeted me with a bark. She bounded over me, her bushy tail waving like a flag. I ran up to Hilda and immediately started showering her with pets. Hilda wagged her tail, licking my face and making me forget about my problems. I smiled and told her that it was good to see her. Hilda flopped on her back, wriggling happily as I rubbed her belly. Sid asked if you guys were around and told me that he didn't see you out and about this morning. I told Sid that you're still overseas, dealing with my great aunt's estate or whatever, and that you'll be back in a couple of weeks. As long as you don't get distracted by a big party along the way. Relax. I kept that part to myself. Sid said that it's a long time for a kid to be by themselves, especially in a big house like ours. I told Sid that it wasn't the first time you left me alone. Sid said that he knows, but it still didn't feel right. So I assured him that I can take care of myself, do my own laundry, cook my own food and everything. Sid smiled and said that I grew up so fast. He suddenly cocked his head, taking a few steps toward my house and crouching down beside a small pile of loose dirt. Sid said that he wondered what that was. He picked something out of the pile and held it up, a glossy black stone carved with a strange ruin. Sid asked if it was mine. I just told him that it was weird. The stone was surprisingly heavy in my hand. I moved my thumb along the deep crack that ran through the center of the engraved ruin. I asked Sid where he thought it came from, and what broke it. Sid said that it beats him, and that it looks like a paperweight or something. Brushing away some of the dirt from the stone, I froze the familiar smell wafted into my nose. Cold earth and a hint of blood. I said that it smells just like that thing that, but then stopped myself. Glancing nervously at Sid, he asked me what it smelled like. I told Sid that it just smells kind of weird. Sid nodded, dusting off his hands. Sid said that he'll let me get to school and told me to let him know if I need anything, that his door was always open. I told Sid that I would and thanked him. Sid whistled and Hilda jumped up to follow him. Once they were out of sight, I looked down at the stone in my hand. If what I saw last night was real, this could be a clue. I decided to keep it somewhere safe. That somewhere was the shed. It took me a few tries to open the door since its rusted hinges screeched with every shove. Seriously, when was the last time someone was in here? Cobwebs trickled my face as I approached the work table, setting the cracked stone down on its dusty surface. I looked around the shed, thinking about how I could fit all kinds of stuff in here. I mean, why do we even have this shed if we never use it? Flicking off the light, I stepped back into the yard, shutting the shed door behind me. A few minutes later, on the asphalt road that runs along the edge of the woods, I heard a car approaching from behind. Stepping to the side, I glanced up, locking eyes with the driver of a black vintage Camaro. There, in the Camaro, was a guy that looked familiar to me, but I couldn't figure out from where. The car slowed to a stop, and the driver leaned out through the open window. He asked me if he knew me from somewhere. I told him that I think so. Then I asked if he went to Westchester High. The guy said that he didn't. They left that hellhole behind a couple years ago. I smiled and told him that he was lucky. The guy said that I need to hang in there, that I'll be out before I know it. Then he told me that he better get to work, and that he'll catch me later. He stepped on the gas and the car started to pull away. I yelled out to him, reminding him that I never got his name. At least, I tried to, but he was already too far away to hear, disappearing around a bend in the road. Shrugging, I continued my long walk towards school. A thin crowd of students trickled across the front yard of my school, waving and calling out to friends as they converged on the front doors. Squeezing through the loud, crowded hall, I found a familiar girl standing at the locker next to mine. That girl was Ava. Ava just greeted me with a sup. I said that not much has been going on with me, which is a total lie, and guessed that it hasn't always been her locker because I've never seen her use it before. Ava told me that she got reassigned. She kicked the locker shut and shrugged her bag onto her shoulder. Then she pointed out that Lily was coming this way. Following Ava's gaze, I saw a nervous girl clutching a textbook to her chest. Lily greeted us and I greeted her back. I told her that it's been a while and asked her how her summer was. Lily said that it was good. She just got back from doing a coding camp up in Portland. Then she said that one of the other girls invited her to collaborate on a game she's working on. I told Lily that it was awesome and to let me know if she needed a play tester. Lily glanced around furtively, lowering her voice. She said that there was something she needed to talk to me about. I asked her what was up. Lily told me that she got some really weird texts last night and then asked me if I did too. At least, she wanted to until she trailed off, looking over my shoulder. I turned to see a pretty girl walking by, chatting with two friends. It was Brittany, laughing about how she ghosted someone for 2 solid weeks, and he just asked her out for coffee again. Ava remarked that just when you think high school might not be the sucking necrotic chest wound that you remember, the evil queen shows up. The guy next to said evil queen laughed, running one hand through his hair. That guy was Cody, and he said that desperate was not a good look. Jocelyn said that maybe whoever this guy was isn't scared of ghosts, and Brittany could try clowns instead because clowns are gross. Oh my god, how dumb can she get? Even Brittany was astonished by Jocelyn's stupidity by trying to ask her if she even knew what ghosting meant. Lily interrupted her by greeting the woman who's basically the Regina George of Westchester High. The group stopped in their tracks and Brittany turned to Lily, giving an appraising look. Brittany made a remark about Lily's sweater, saying she didn't know Baby Barn had a quadruple XL section. See what I mean by evil queen? Lily meekly told her that she just wanted to say hello. Brittany had the nerve to tell Lily that she wants a red Ferrari for her birthday, but she'll settle for not having to listen to Lily's whiny voice anymore. I was so mad that I told Brittany off right there. I remarked that basing her fashion sense on whatever the wannabe models on Pictogram are wearing ain't that much cooler. Brittany gave me a news flash and said that no one asked me. I told Brittany that I didn't hear anyone asking for her opinion either, so she can just take her unsolicited fashion advice to someone who cares. Brittany warned me that I don't want to piss her off, which made me remark that I'm shaking in my boots. Lily looked down at the floor, hiding a small smile. Jocelyn tried to make what was probably going to be a lame comeback, but Ava told the track and field Barbie that witty comebacks are not her strong suit. Jocelyn reminded Ava that she's cross-country. Ava told Jocelyn that she knows and that she used the wrong one on purpose to piss her off, and then told her to try and keep up, getting a chuckle out of me. Cody told Ava to go haunt some other hallway and called her a freak. Before I could defend Ava, she gave Cody a long, ponderous look and then reached up to pluck a stray hair from his shoulder. Ava explained to Cody that she's been meaning to try out this new curse she found on the internet and that if he feels a burning sensation in his eyeballs, that's normal. You wouldn't believe the look on Cody's face. It was a struggle to not burst out laughing right there. Waggling her fingers, Ava stalked down the hallway. Jocelyn was freaking out and asked Cody what's going to happen to his eyeballs. Brittany told Jocelyn to chill and that the weirdo reads too many vampire novels. Then Brittany had the nerve to say that with any luck, Ava will flunk out and go live in a dirty old shack like Pritch the Witch. Jocelyn started laughing like the flunky she is and said that Ava is just like Pritch the Witch and they should call her Ava the Witch. Yeah, real original, Jocelyn. Cody just gave a deadpan remark about how that was a good one. I shook my head, turning to grab my notebook from my locker. I said that, as lovely as that had been, we should probably go, but before I could say where, Jocelyn looked at my neck and asked if the mark on it was a hickey loud enough for everyone to hear. She reached up, poking the fresh bruises on the side of my neck. I yelped in pain and told her to get off. Cody remarked that no one would want to chew on a social reject like me. I told Cody that it's none of his damn business. Then Cody joked about me being crabby and had the nerve to ask if I was on my period. I told Cody that he just has that effect on people. Brittany said that as fascinating as this combo is, she needs to go get ready for the pep rally. She jerked her head and the others followed like the sheep they are. Jocelyn shoulder checked me as she walked by, knocking me hard against the locker, causing me to yelp in pain once again. Lily immediately ran to see if I was okay while Jocelyn told me that she'll see me around. Wincing, I rubbed my shoulder where it slammed against the locker, glaring after the bullies. I remarked that this school year's already off to a great start. Lily asked if we should report them to the office. I made a remark about how the millionth time's the charm and maybe, this time, they'll actually get in trouble. Lily smiled ruefully as the two of us joined the crowd of students shuffling toward the gym. Music blared over the gym speakers and a rush of panic hit as I jostled by the crowd, my mind flashing back to the night before. Dan's melted off face still fresh in my mind. Lily asked me if I was okay. I lied and said that I was. It was just kind of crowded in here, and asked her if she sees anywhere to sit. Lily said that it looked like there were a couple of seats nearby, but then realized that it was Ava's spot. There she was in the top row of the bleachers, scribbling in a worn sketchbook. As I watched a couple of freshmen move to sit beside her, she hissed at them. The freshmen tripped over themselves, scrambling to get away from Ava. She glared after them, then noticed me watching her and nodded to the empty bench. I asked Lily if she was inviting me to sit by her. Lily said that she thinks Ava is inviting me over. I know I haven't talked with Ava in a while, but she's the only one I know who knows all about the supernatural. Maybe, just maybe, I could talk with her about what happened last night. It'd be nice to tell someone who'd actually believe me. So I sat with Ava. Lily told me to sit with Ava without her because Ava scares her a little. I asked Lily if she was sure. She said that she was, and that she sees a spot next to Mr. Cooper. Then she thanked me for my help earlier. I told Lily that I've always got her back, and that I'd see her later. I climbed to the top row of the bleachers and sidled over to Ava's corner. I pointed to the empty spot right next to her and asked if anyone was sitting there. Ava said that it was just her ghost friend, but he's incorporeal, so it doesn't really count. I laughed until I realized that Ava's not laughing with me. I apologized and explained that I couldn't tell if she was messing with me. Ava said that it's all part of her mystique. I looked at the bench, then back at Ava's expressionless face. I decided to humor Ava and leave room for the ghost. She smirked as I sat down, leaving a person-sized space between me and her. Ava joked that it was good to know she could make me do stuff by saying random, spooky nonsense. The two of us sat together for a few minutes in silence. Ava scribbled in her sketchbook as she asked me if I was going to tell her what I'm so freaked out about, or if I'm having fun dismembering that poor bench. I broke out of my thoughts, turning to Ava and then looked down, realizing that I've been picking splinters off the edge of the bleachers. I told Ava that I do want to talk about it, but it's just a really weird story. Ava told me to look at her, and that weird is her middle name. I asked Ava if that was true. Ava admitted that her middle name's actually Dolores, but if I tell that to anyone, she'll go to my house and hide eyeballs in my food. I asked Ava where she could even get eyeballs. Ava just said that next time I go to pour a bowl of cereal, bloop, eyeballs. Yeah, thanks for the mental image. I didn't need to eat today. I told Ava that I'd keep that in mind. Then I asked her what she'd say if I told her that last night I saw some kind of monster. Ava asked me what the monster looked like. I explained that, at first, it looked like Dan, which Ava called a plot twist. Then, once I figured out it wasn't actually Dan, it attacked me. Then its face kind of melted off and underneath the skin was just dirt, I don't know. Ava guessed that it was like a golem. Okay, I've heard of golems from Gargoyles, Supernatural, and one reference in The Sopranos, but I don't exactly know what they are. So I asked Ava. She explained that it's a humanoid form usually crafted from dirt or clay, animated by a supernatural force. She said that it sounds like the creature fits the bill. I said that I guess it does, but the weirdest thing was that I woke up the next morning and it was gone. I asked Ava why it would just attack me and leave. Ava gave me a full disclosure by saying that her knowledge of golems is 60% Wikipedia and 40% this dude named Magic Stan 75, who she met on a Warlock forum. Well, she still knows more than me about them. Ava guessed that maybe whatever power that animated the golem is temporary, or maybe it was all a dream. I shuddered, reaching up to feel my neck. I told Ava that it was definitely not a dream, because dreams don't leave bruises unless Freddy Krueger's in them. Ava said that dreams can leave bruises, and there are beings like Freddy Krueger who can enter or even affect your dreams, and one of those could probably use my dreams to hurt me. Ava then suggested that I could be under a curse or something. She said that she's read a lot about cursed dreams. I asked if she did it just for fun. Ava told me that we can go with that, but I couldn't. Not after last night. I asked Ava how she knows all this stuff. She said that there's this thing called the internet. I told Ava that she knows what I mean, and explained that it seems like she's been studying this for a while, and not just by watching monster movies, which was where most of my knowledge comes from. Ava told me that the world's a freaky place, and that we learned that the hard way. She said that she just wants to be ready the next time something happens. I gave her a knowing look, thinking of Mr. Red. I thanked Ava and told her I really needed to talk to someone, but I didn't think anyone would believe me. Ava said that the jury's still out on her believing me, and I could be making this up to screw with her. I asked Ava if people really did that to her. Ava said that they try, but her kung fu is strong. I thanked Ava for listening without immediately dismissing me. It helps a lot. Ava said that she was glad to help, but she's done now. I asked Ava what she was done with. She explained that she's done with being nice because she's got this whole bitter misanthrope thing going on, and if people see her being all friendly, they might think it's okay to talk to her. I joked that Ava can't have that. Ava claimed that she would literally die. I picked up my stuff and started edging toward the stairs when Ava called out to me. I asked her what she wanted, and she told me that I'm not as big of a tool as most people. I smiled and told Ava that, coming from her, that means a lot. I made my way down the bleachers as they continued to fill, looking for any place I can squeeze in. Finally, I spotted one empty seat right next to a familiar figure slouching in the second row. That figure was Noah, someone else I haven't talked to since the tragedy. Though, with the Noah, I'd rather keep it that way. I quickly turned around, desperately scanning the crowd for another open seat, even if it was next to a teacher. Unfortunately, there weren't any. I considered trying to sneak back out the gym doors until someone shouted at me from a few rows up. That someone was Cody, and he told me to sit my stupid ass down unless I want to watch from the garbage can. Jocelyn agreed, saying that I'm blocking their view and there's a spot right there. Yeah, the spot I want to avoid, but like it or not, I've been caught. Wincing, I turned back around to see Noah looking right at me. I asked him if he minded if I sat there. He told me to knock myself out. Noah scooted over and I squeezed in beside him. I asked Noah what's been up with him, that we haven't talked since... I couldn't bring myself to say when. All he said was that he knows. I sat down, neither of us saying another word. Down on the floor of the gym, a tall, handsome guy with glasses walked up to the podium. The handsome guy was Lucas, another former friend. And he asked how we were all doing. The students roared in response. The bleachers rumbled and shook as the crowd pounded their feet on the wood. I couldn't believe it. There was Lucas, the shy guy from when I was a kid, standing proudly in front of a podium. I actually asked when he got so hot. Noah remarked that everyone loves the tall guy with cool hair. Wow, bitter much? Lucas waved to the cheering crowd, flashing a smile. He welcomed everyone back and said that, for anyone who doesn't know him already, he's Lucas Thomas, our student body president. He said that he knows everyone's a little salty that summer is over, but trust him when he says this is one school year we'll never forget. I know it's turning into one I'll never forget, but not in the way Lucas means. After that note, Lucas shouted at us to kick this pep rally off Westchester Wolf style. At Lucas's signal, several cheerleaders jumped up from the bleachers, bouncing and waving their pom-poms in the air. Stacy led the cheer, saying that we can do better than that, I said that it looked like Stacy's doing pretty well too. One by one, the cheerleaders tumbled across the gym. Stacy drew thunderous cheers as she pulled off an effortless roundoff into a backflip. If I tried anything like that, I'd end up in the ER. I even said that it was incredible. Noah gave a deadpanned, "Yay, go team." Beaming, Stacy looked back at the rest of the cheer squad, her smile suddenly fading as she locked eyes with Brittany, and if looks could kill, Stacy would have dropped dead right there. She turned and suddenly tripped over her own feet, sprawling on her face and screaming out in pain. I called out for Stacy and then jumped to my feet, hurrying to help her. I asked Stacy if she was okay and wanted to know what happened. Stacy insisted it was nothing and said that she's just a klutz. I asked Stacy if she really thinks she's such a klutz because she just did a freaking backflip. I joked about how if that's what a klutz looks like, then sign me up for klutz lessons. Stacy thanked me and called me a sweetheart. My face fell as the memory from our childhood came back to me. No, I was anything but. Before Stacy could ask me what was wrong, Jocelyn laughed and asked everyone if we saw that. Then talked about how Stacy was like, "Wham! Ah!" Cody laughed with her, saying that he hoped the school news nerds got that on camera. Blushing, Stacy rejoined the rest of the squad. I sat back down as, at the other end of the gym, Brittany stepped forward with a smug smile and told everyone to check her out. She took 3 running steps, then flew into a no-handed cartwheel. The crowd roared as she stuck the landing. I asked Stacy why people like Brittany so much. They've got to know how horrible she is. Noah remarked that she's hot and she can do flips. We can't compete. What really sucks is how much of that is true. Lucas grinned from the podium as the cheerleaders returned to their seats. He said that, now that the cheer squad's done totally blowing our minds, let's give it up for the Westchester Wolves basketball team. More applause sounded as a group of guys in basketball jerseys formed up in front of the podium with Ben howling and Andy shouting, "Go Wolves!" Noah observed that Andy actually made the team this year. I said that it was good for him and that it looks like he's been working hard. The little girl had become a man. I told Noah that I can't wait to see Andy play. I flinched as Cody's voice broke through the general applause as he screamed to watch out for the triple threat. Andy's head snapped in the direction of Cody's voice, his face suddenly twisting with anger. Andy yelled at Cody to come down here and... What Andy planned for Cody, I never found out because as he took one step toward the bleachers, he stopped himself as Lucas called the team captain up to the podium. Ben thanked Lucas and asked Westchester High what's up. The crowd whooped and stomped in response. Ben said that we've got our first game coming up in a couple of days, so we had better be here to watch them crush it. But he's not going to lie. They've got a couple of rookies on the team this year, but he's not going to let that stop. Ben paused. The gym light suddenly flickered. Oh God, no. Please, not now. That was all I could think as the lights went off. Lucas's voice called out over the speakers, drowning out the nervous chatter of the students. He told us to stay seated, and we don't want anyone to fall from A burst of static cut him off, and the music stuttered, fading in and out. With a loud bang, the gym doors were blown open by a frigid gust of wind. The lights flickered back on, and I nearly jumped out of my seat as Noah suddenly grabbed my arm. I screamed and demanded to know what he was doing. Noah told me to shut up and asked if I heard them. I asked Noah if I heard what? Noah shushed me, and then I did hear it, just barely on the edge of my perception. I heard a sound that snatched all the breath from my body, leaving me cold. A sound that could only mean one thing. Please, no, not here. I looked around, picking out the faces of my former friends from a freaked out Andy to an equally freaked out Lucas. There was Lily, looking like she was in shock, and Stacy, looking like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Even Ava, the one who usually embraced the unknown, was losing her cool. The music sputtered and died as the lights shut off completely, leaving only the voice. A voice that was at once completely alien and horribly familiar, uttering 3 words. Everyone plays together.